The air hung heavy with smoke and despair, the scent of burning flesh mingling with the acrid tang of scorched earth. The sun, a fiery orb, hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the ruins of what was once a proud temple, a place revered, a sanctuary of hope. Now, it stood as a charred testament to failure, the stones draped in ashes, not of reverence but of loss. "Is this how it ends?" a raspy voice echoed through the rubble, barely above a whisper. Zoroaster, once a beacon of light and wisdom, now stood amid the ruins of his life's work, his heart pounding as he surveyed the devastation. In mere moments, the world he envisioned, a universe of duality, where truth triumphed over falsehood, had crumbled under the weight of betrayal and mistrust. A loud crack echoed, and a piece of stone fell, sending tremors through the ground. "We will rebuild," he had shouted just days ago, but those words felt like an empty promise now. The faithful had scattered, driven by fear, while the shadows of doubt crept insidiously into the hearts of those he had once inspired. How did it come to this, he thought, straining to remember the decisions that led to the unraveling of everything he had worked so hard to create. Behind the ruins lay a deeper truth, a turbulent undercurrent of opposition brewing among his own followers. The whispers of dissent had begun long before the fires raged, old traditions clashed with the ideology he preached. Zoroaster had called for a single divine entity. Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, promising a world free from chaos. Yet, in a land riddled with ancient polytheistic beliefs, his vision was met with suspicion, resentment, and fear of the unknown. "Why should we forsake our gods?" one follower had challenged him just days before the calamity. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of generations. "They brought us rain, they brought us life." Others nodded in agreement, their eyes glinting with a mixture of reverence for the old ways and fear of the new. Zoroaster felt the pressure mounting, a tidal wave of doubt crashing against the cliffside of his faith. In that moment, he realized that the very followers who once hailed him as a prophet were slowly becoming a formidable force against him. The stakes were higher than they had ever been. Would he bend to the will of the masses, or would he stand firm, risking everything he had for the truth he believed? It was on that fateful evening, as Zoroaster looked out over the gathering storm clouds, that he made his critical decision. "I will not cower," he said aloud, conviction hardening his resolve. He knew that a confrontation was inevitable, but it had to happen on his terms. He would hold a grand assembly, a meeting of the faithful, to declare his vision once more, the very vision that had ignited the spark of change. He gathered the leaders of the clans, the guardians of tradition, and the elders who whispered doubts behind closed doors. The assembly was fraught with tension, the air electric as they filled the vast courtyard under the twilight sky. "Listen to me," he implored, his voice firm but laced with urgency. "We are at a crossroads. Embrace the truth of Ahura Mazda, or plunge into eternal darkness." But even as he spoke, he felt the unease grow, a crack in his carefully constructed facade. His heart raced as he saw the flickers of resistance in their eyes. Would they understand, or would they turn against him? The seeds of dissent had taken root, and he was acutely aware of the weight of his words. They would either become the harbingers of his truth or the executioners of his fate. In the days that followed, Zoroaster devised a plan that he believed would solidify his authority and quell dissent. He would perform a ritual, a sacred act meant to invoke the presence of Ahura Mazda, a divine sign, a miracle that would demonstrate his connection to the divine. "We must show them," he told his closest followers, his voice a fervent whisper in the dim light of the candlelit chamber, "that the truth is not just a belief, but a living force." The temple was prepared, adorned with offerings of incense and sacred fire, and as the sun set, casting a golden hue over the landscape, Zoroaster stood before the gathered crowd. His heart thudded against his chest, and he felt the weight of their gazes upon him, both hopeful and wary. "In this moment, we will call upon the light," he declared, exuding a confidence that masked his own inner turmoil. As he raised his arms to the heavens, seeking a sign, the atmosphere shifted, the wind picked up, stirring the torches into a flickering frenzy. "Ahura Mazda, guide us," he cried out, desperation clawing at the edges of his resolve. But instead of the divine response he so desperately sought, the winds howled in rebellion, the flames danced wildly, casting ominous shadows that morphed into grotesque shapes. Was this a message or a warning? The moment hung in the air as if time itself had come to a standstill. A heartbeat skipped, and then, a flash, a streak of lightning illuminated the sky, piercing the darkness with blinding intensity. Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Zoroaster felt a thrill of hope surge within him. Was this the sign he had prayed for? The very heavens acknowledging his sacrifice? But just as quickly, the mood shifted. The ground trembled underfoot, a fissure appearing in the earth, a harbinger of chaos. People shrieked, panic erupting like wildfire as they stumbled back from the gathering. Zoroaster's heart sank. Instead of faith ignited, he had fueled fear. As the assembly devolved into chaos, the faces he had sought to inspire now twisted in horror, their faith fractured by the very act meant to solidify it. "Return to your homes," he shouted, desperation climbing his throat. "Trust in the light." But the words fell flat against the cacophony of cries. The flames that had promised clarity now mirrored his own descent into despair. In the aftermath, Zoroaster found himself standing alone among the remnants of chaos. The streets lay deserted, echoes of the assembly haunting him like phantoms of despair. But it wasn't just the crowd that had fractured, it was the trust he had meticulously built among his closest allies. As he began to sift through the ashes of his hopes, a familiar face emerged from the shadows. "You've failed us," the voice cut through him like a blade, one of his most trusted followers, now an embodiment of betrayal. "We sought guidance, not a spectacle." Zoroaster felt his breath hitch. "I sought to show the truth," he retorted, anguish pouring into every word. But the eyes that once glimmered with loyalty now bore the mark of disillusionment. "You brought chaos, not clarity," the follower spat, backing away. "You've turned us against our own. You are no prophet but a charlatan." The words echoed, crushing the remnants of hope within him. He had gambled everything on a miracle, and now, standing on the precipice of ruin, he realized too late that his vision had blinded him to the truth of human nature, the fragility of faith, and the fickleness of the soul. As the weeks turned to months, Zoroaster wandered through the desolation of his dreams, reflecting on the choices that had brought him here. The lessons were stark. In the pursuit of a singular truth, he had underestimated the complexities of faith and the human heart. Power, he realized, was not just about possessing knowledge or divine insight, it was also about understanding the fears and desires that drive people. He learned that every prophet must grapple with the shadows of disbelief and doubt, that the greatest battles are often fought not against external foes but within oneself. The ambition that had once fueled his rise now felt like a weight dragging him down into despair. And as Zoroaster looked to the horizon, he understood that the journey was far from over. The embers of his teachings flickered in the hearts of the few who remained, and he resolved to rebuild, not through miracles but through patience, compassion, and resilience. What he had lost could not be regained, but the seeds of a new understanding were taking root. "I will not give up," he vowed. Determination hardening within him as the sun dipped below the horizon. For in every darkness, there lies a flicker of light. And perhaps, in that journey of rebuilding, he would discover that true power lies not in wielding authority but in nurturing belief, a lesson learned too late, but one that would echo through the ages, whispering of the complexities of faith, power, and the indomitable human spirit.